So the question is, everyone's doing the same thing on social media. How do I stand out? The first thing I would do is, are you guys familiar with a bell curve? So on the left side of it, you have kind of like your champions, and then it goes up, and then on the end side of it, it's 4 quadrants, basically. On the far right side, it is the people who right now say that they'll never follow you, they hate you, etc. I would focus on only the champion side of it when you're starting. Find those super users and give them the most amazing opportunity possible. Because if you're trying to change people's minds who don't really care about you over here, you're wasting your time, right? So a lot of people have 5 followers and they go, oh, I have 5 followers. What do I do? Who cares? Like, give those people the most amazing experience, content, whatever you provide possible, right? And make them feel special, and then go deep on them. And then go deep on them. And what you'll realize is that the content that you can create for them, specifically for social media, they're gonna love so much that they're gonna share, right? So you're trying to find champions, not like begging people to buy your thing. Find those champions is what I would do.
Hi, Zack. Thank you very much for coming through as always. And as a Hampton Roads native from Hampton, grateful for the work you're doing in terms of seeing that vision in Hampton Roads. So real quick, Angelo Suggs, founder of Lion Like Messenger, coaching communication and interpersonal communication coaching. So one of the things that came to my mind, I know we do kind of live in that thank you economy of sorts. How do you balance that, probably the greatest asset of all? You want to give care, you want to give consistent and quality care to those initial followers or to the people you meet, but how do you balance that with time as well? Managing your time, maybe you may not be able to send a 12-second video to all 1,000 followers, maybe a unique one, but how do you balance time with that care? Because that's a powerful point what you're saying, but how do you balance that with time?
Sure. So whenever someone says they don't have time, I immediately call out the BS meter and say, let's take an inventory of your life for the next 7 days. I believe I could look at your next 7 days and find hours of time. So I hate that as an excuse. How much time are you watching on Netflix? What are you doing on your car? There's so much time everywhere, right? So Keenan said, Zack, earlier, Zack, I want to meet up with you this week. And I said, hey, I'm driving a lot. Let's think about doing this on a phone call, right? I'm driving to DC next week. That's 3 to 12 hours of drive time, depending on, those things. So I can fill a lot of meetings, right? Like, get up a little bit earlier. Do things a little bit later, take a working lunch. Like, I would really take an inventory of what you're actually doing, and then maybe look at your friendships too and see how many of those people are negatively impacting your life that maybe if you removed them or removed less of, got some of that time out of them, that you would have a lot more time in your life. That would be the first thing. Now, if you're really super busy, I would just say really focus on those things that are gonna make a big impact. For a long period of time. But most of the time, I think people have a lot more time. They're just doing a really bad job of being efficient in their lives. Yep. I would expect nothing less from the front of the crowd.
And to that point, I just wanted to point out a little tidbit. So on Instagram, I've sort of been growing my following on Instagram, and a lot of people actually say, "Oh wow, it was so nice of you," because I send the videos too, and a lot of people are like, "Wow, it was so nice of you to take the time to send me a video," and I'm like, the video was quicker than me thinking about it and then typing it, and so there's another thing, and people just go crazy over that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Sir.
There are several of us that are not imaginative, me being probably the leader of that pack. So as we try to be unique in our relationship with others, I find that I'm just duplicating what others are doing, maybe the best that they're doing, and I'll duplicate that, yet the uniqueness just doesn't come out. Any tips on that one?
So the first thing I would say is, do you actually have data telling you that you're not doing it right, or is that just your assumption?
My assumption.
Right? So I would want to confirm that that's the truth, right? Because you could be doing something that people are very appreciative of, right? So what would happen if Chick-fil-A decides to stop saying my pleasure? How many people would be pissed off at that, right? Not everyone says it, but what would happen in that scenario, right? So that would be the first thing, is really make sure that your assumption is true. Our gut is normally right, right? So what I would do is start testing little scenarios with you own and run, it looks like a UPS store, right? So with you in the store, with your staff in the store, come up with some new scenarios to put people through, right? When you go into a retail environment, most people go, hey, how are you? 10% off today, right? Maybe you just walk in and go, welcome to Moe's, right? A completely different scenario, but it makes people excited when they walk in, right? Or when you leave a Chick-fil-A, you leave with a my pleasure. So I'm not saying copy those scenarios, but figure out new techniques or new language to put people through in your normal day-to-days. So when someone comes up, instead of just saying, next, maybe make sure that people are smiling, put out a handshake. Hey, how are you? I can't read your name. Hi, I'm Eddie. You know, what did you have for breakfast? What are you watching on Netflix? Like, it seems crazy, but then that person goes, man, did you see the season 2 finale of Stranger Things? It was amazing. And then they go, you know, I don't have to go to the UPS store, but I love Eddie's enthusiasm and I'm gonna go back there. That little tweak on trying to really invest in someone's life is powerful. And so when you're having real conversations with your friends, what do you talk about, right? Maybe there's a scenario there that you could implement in your business. Helpful?
Helpful, thank you.
In the back. Come on, Tim, get those running hours in.
So you spoke a lot about doing something that I think I've heard from a few founders about, like this idea of doing something that isn't scalable at first, right? To like really make an impact and kind of like get to know people. Is there like a tipping point in your experience? You know, if you want to wish 100,000 people a happy birthday, which is incredibly unreasonable, but if you want to wish 100,000 people a happy birthday in a year, you can't do 100,000 videos. Is there like a tipping point for you?
I don't have 100,000 cell phone numbers, so that's the first thing. Look, there definitely becomes some sort of moment where you have to figure out other things, right? I've been here a lot this weekend. I've tried saying hello to as many people that I walk past and stuff like that. You are not always going to be able, there's absolutely a tipping point, right? But if you do a good job 99% of the time, I think that's gonna be pretty good, and people are gonna be like, all right, this guy's kind of busy, I can't always do that, right? You could then invest in staff to do some of those things for you as well. Is that still as authentic and genuine? I don't know. If they have access to your phone and number and things, maybe it still can be. But the key is to make sure that you do something, right? Then the key is to like really give that extra little thing. So it doesn't have to be picking up your phone, doing a quick selfie video and being like, happy birthday. It could be knowing that their birthday is coming up and sending them a card or a gift that's powerful, and knowing in your CRM where that birthday is. So I think there's a lot of ways to do a very similar scenario. It's just figuring out what you have time and what not to do. Most people in this room and in most rooms have an ample amount of time to do a lot of things. All right, the marathon continues. Come on down. And then next we want to go over here back.
So I know a brick and mortar here at Cryo 17.
Yep.
Great amount of members the first 120 days. But what we're lacking is actually trajectory as far as like growth in our Instagram, our Facebook followings, and interacting with our consumer. What kind of advice do you give a guy like me? I just don't have the people to incorporate that method. What do I do?
Yeah,
do I
number
retrain
one
my
is,
staff?
are your customers on those mediums is the first thing, right? So you don't want to be building towards a crowd that isn't really going to be there, right? So the way I talk to my wife, if you're watching, hello wife, is very different than the way that I talk to my best friends, to my grandparents, et cetera, right? The same goes for a social strategy. You can't expect to get incredibly large followings if those people aren't on those followings. So that has to be the basis. Number one is make sure that who your customers are there. The first thing you could do is get like, instead of printing out business cards when they leave, just be like, follow us on Facebook and get 10% off the next one and see if that builds up. and then the channels, and then do one for Twitter, which probably won't do well. Do one for Instagram, maybe one for YouTube, and maybe a couple other ones, whatever. And then figure out where those coupon business card things start to rise in your business, and see if one of them is better than others. I believe that most people are good at one medium, and they should focus on that one medium, not a million of them, because the majority of their customers are on one, and yet they try and be amazing at 35 of them. So that would be that. And then just start documenting what you're doing day to day, right? So the things that no one ever gets to see, that you're like, oh, this isn't that great, there's no special sauce here, but they want to see that, and that gets you really in there. So cryo is really popular right now. My guess is most people have no idea what cryotherapy is. So whip up the old cell phone and be like, hey, we're going to show you what cryo is, and do that a lot so people start to get comfortable with this new phenomenon, right? You're hoping and expecting people to immediately come in because you're open. And Kevin Costner was wrong. Come on. That should have had at least 14 more laughs. But you have to continue and continue. And I would say you had you said you have 120 really good super users at the beginning. What are you doing to really make those 120, 240, right? Have you gone above and beyond with those 120 or not yet, right? You what? 418. That's where you're at now? Okay, so then your 120 goes to 418. So your 418 then goes to 836, right? But building on those people. Right? And then don't always just be like, oh, share my thing, do this. Like, actually create real value for them with what they're looking for. And so maybe it's a technique that says, hey, I know a lot of you, after you come here, you say you're sore, and we say drink water. Well, here's a technique that you can use that says as soon as you wake up in the morning to drink 8 ounces of water, because it'll help you better throughout the day. And it's just a simple little tip that you knew that you're not telling anyone. Here's how you can pack your bag quicker. Right? All these little things like that you think all the time and never do, that they're looking for and they're searching for, and they're finding your competitors, and you're like, oh, I lost. You lost because you didn't do the work. Cool? I don't see the judges, so we can keep going. Questions? My hourly rate's really expensive, so if you guys have questions, get these out. Keep the running. Dave, from Where to Wheel, Off-Road Parks.
So, all right, there's a line somewhere between anomaly and weird. Have you crossed it? And could you give us that scenario?
As a self-proclaimed best interviewer in the world, that was a hell of a question. There are probably people who don't respond or think it is probably weird, but I don't think I'm there yet. I don't do anything so crazy that would make someone feel that way, but I think I'm taking standard techniques to another level, and I think that's really all I'm doing. Like the happy birthday thing, I think is such a great example. Right? Another way to do the happy birthday on Facebook is to respond to everyone that wishes you a happy birthday, and not the next day be like, thank you for everyone who wished me a happy birthday. That's called being lazy, right? Social media is a two-way street. So when someone clicks your post and says something, you're supposed to respond back, right? So if someone on Facebook says happy birthday, you should say thank you. Number 2. Yep.
Wait, you had your hand up.
Tim, here. Dave again, I guess, first, since he's there.
Real quick question. Do you think social media is a zero-sum game, and that to gain a follower, you have to steal that person from somebody else?
No. I don't think it's stealing. I mean, I think no, I think it's about the work that you put into them. Could you find them at an event in real life and create a relationship with them? No, I don't think it's like that. Some people probably would, but to me it's, okay, what are you doing to continue to provide value? And if they're really looking to move, they were probably moving anyway. It wasn't just because you stole them, right? All right. Tim, come on, sprint it up.
So for growing brands, what would you say is the purpose of Twitter? Instagram and YouTube, you can kind of see the unique flair. What's the role of Twitter if you're not yet that big celebrity or big brand or big business?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of Twitter?
I would change your mindset first to stop trying to be a big brand or celebrity.
Okay.
That'll be the first thing. I would try to engage where other people might be, and this is probably where Dave was talking about, stealing, right? But like find where other communities are and provide your perspective. I believe Twitter is really just a digital newspaper of the information that you want. But on any medium, what I would do is I don't think that you trying to be, if your goal is to be famous and a celebrity and this big following and then you never do it, what happens? Have you failed yet? Maybe you impacted 20,000 people instead of 200,000. You still did a good job, right? So be careful with that. Just help people, right? There's plenty of people. If you like sports and you want to build a sports column, go into other existing platforms where people are talking about sports and give your feedback. That's it. What you'll realize is every 2 of the 10 people that you talk to might start responding back, right? People are on these things to get a response back, so give it to them. Welcome. Keenan? Anyone on this side? Okay. And then Tim, we're going to be over there. Keenan, go.
First off, I want to make it clear that I was not paid to endorse this book. However, another question about your book, which was a phenomenal book. Talking about giving your business more, I don't want to say credibility, but giving it more, just to dive into it, I guess, can you speak more to, in the chapter of your book when you talked about applying for awards for your business? Because that is something that I had never seen before and or thought about, and it was interesting to me to see that. Could you speak more to that?
Sure. So there's a chapter in the book that basically says there's 1 million different award competitions in the world, and you probably can win one of them and use that credibility to get you another step in your business. Little known fact, 10 years ago when I started all these things, I'd gotten out of TV news, I was a nobody, I had no credibility, and I started applying to awards pretty quickly because I didn't know what else to do, and I started winning with no credibility, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So the idea is that you can get a bunch of free publicity from these award competitions, right? There's a lot of local award competitions that most people are too afraid to nominate themselves to do, so they don't do it. Or you could have a friend nominate you. It's really, really easy. But the whole idea is when you hear about an artist, you hear about their accomplishments, right? So Beyonce is, I'm just gonna guess, an 11-time Grammy Award-winning artist. Could be more, could be less, I have no idea. I just made that up. Sorry, Beyonce fans, if I'm way off, okay? But the idea is that credibility statement starts becoming what they say, right? The New England Patriots are the 5-time world champions, right? So then you can start selling those accomplishments, even if they're not that big, because they make you look like a winner, even if you don't think they are, and even if you don't think you are yet, and other people will start being like, this person won an award, so they must know what they're doing. You're right, they knew how to play the game, and they applied, and they won. So my whole thing is, if you qualify, apply, and a lot of these things are free, so do it. But what you'll realize is only like 2 people in this room will actually do it because everyone else is lazy.
Okay, I have a services company, small company, and you talk about personal service, so I'm talking about the opposite effect. I deal with a lot of clients and customers, and I can't deal with the customers that repeatedly call me and try to have me give them the personal attention. I have someone else that provides that service, one of my staff. So what is your opinion on how you would treat that person? They keep coming to you day after day or week after week to try to get you to work the issue versus the staff member.
Yeah, so for clarity on context, the concern is that you did a really good job of creating a great relationship with someone, you grew too much, and you can't handle taking care of them at the same extensiveness as one time?
I'll get it. No, I'll just go. I have a property management company, so I'm dealing with the clients, which are the owners and all the vendors, and from time to time with the tenants. So I have another person that deals directly with the tenants all the time, but I have some people think they can come to me and want to come to me to do so all the time.
Got it. Number one, have you communicated that you don't want to be the point of contact anymore? Yeah. Okay. Number two, sometimes firing people is an okay thing to do, clients as well.
You can't fire tenants.
You could not renew their lease, I guess. One thing that I think, in your case, I'll give you an example, but I think a lot of people don't do this anyway. Guiding the way for that next person is something that I think can be very, very powerful. So like if you're the president now, but you know you're not going to be the president in 5 years, president of a company, what are you doing to kind of teach that next role into someone? So for the next few months, you could bring that person along with you. I know it takes time to do that, but that could start to change that person's habit to say, hey, I got to start calling you instead of you. And then just continuing to reiterate, hey, this is so-and-so's role. This is why I pay them. You have to do it. I think if you do it enough, hopefully it would stop. What number are we at right now? Like 75? Persistence, it's good. We learned that on Friday. Anyone else? You guys want me to sing? Gary, how'd I do? I got two Garys to say that. All right. Championship belt. What do you want to know? Like where I got it? So I had an event a few years ago. Just had a friend, actually the person at the time, you know someone, but you don't know them. This person came to my event. He met me. He was like, oh, you're amazing. We both liked wrestling. And it was interesting. I thought the conversation went fine. But then about a week or two later, I get in the mail a handwritten card. This guy's named Xerxes. And he sends me this card, and it says, your belt is on the way. And I was like, what? That's weird. Like, why'd this guy buy me a belt? Like, that sounds weird. And then the next day I get back and I got this bad boy. A guy bought me a $400 WWE Championship belt. That is talking about building and investing in relationships for the future. He's basically become a good friend. We talk all the time, and he invested in that future. I get it. Not everyone can buy a championship belt for everyone. But this is just another creative way in how you can do it to stand out and be different. And then I realized, well, shoot, I should just bring this everywhere because no one else is carrying around a championship belt. And so I started doing it, and it makes me continue to look different and stand out, which for me, some of it is a little bit of a front in a way to like super stand out. But I think it adds to the story, and I'm definitely full genuine with this. Like, I love wrestling, going to WrestleMania, Vince send me free tickets. And all that. But I appreciate y'all and your time. One last question.
Yes, one last question. So in terms of like how you're saying like send a card or a belt, what does the dialogue look like when you're like how did Xerxes get your, because Xerxes was one of my mentors.
Yeah.
So like how did he get your address? Like how did that dialogue go?
The internet's pretty strong, right? Yeah. So he went to my office and sent it to that office. That's find out where that person works, send it to them. That's one really easy way to do it. And he just did it. He sent it to my office and it came. My office was easy to find online. If you know that someone works at Jefferson Labs, you could probably figure out where they are and just send it to them. I mean, it could be cupcakes, a cookie text. It could be a handwritten card. It could be, a bottle of Aquafina. It could be so many different things. It's just do something first, right? Do that thing. And then, if you have the ability, do something a little more. Anyone else? Bueller? Y'all are so young. Do you know what that is? That was like my Tim Ryan in the Star Wars comparison from Friday night. Well, thank you guys for having me. Super pumped up. Whoever wins, I'll take my cut. Kidding. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Wait, don't go anywhere. The Zack Miller. Big round of applause. Zack, we got a little something for you. It's tissue paper.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more big round of applause.